We live in a market-based free enterprise economy. And generally speaking, the more that the central government, and in our case here today, the federal government, meddles with the private sector and nibbles away at their liberty, the worse off the private sector is, both owners and employees alike, men and women, as well as the country as a whole. We see this play out time and again. So we should and really need to tread lightly when discussing more regulation, rules, and codifying compulsory actions and behavior. The market should drive wages, and that's the free market. We've heard, not the government market, free market. We've heard for years claims by some that American women on average, and we've heard different varying figures, 70 cents on the dollar, 82 cents on the dollar for what male counterparts make. But what many folks don't realize is that's not a fair comparison, apple to apple. And we've heard a little bit about that today. It's simply comparing median earnings of all men and women classified as full-time employees. That's a misleading figure, and it's unfair not to take into account other factors. For instance, the job itself, the skill level of the employee, the experience of the employee, the hours worked by that employee. And that's very interesting to note here, as according to the Department of Labor in 2019, the average male worker put in 8.32 hours per day compared to the average female worker who logged in 7.73 hours per day. That alone accounts for a 7% difference. As a whole, female workers tend to consider and choose flexibility, which can account for lower wages, while men on average gravitate to a higher degree toward less desirable work hours, location, and occupation, so long as it pays a higher wage. Until I took this most recent job 3 months ago, this most recent government job, I'd been an entrepreneur for 25 years. My goal, like nearly all of the millions of other business owners across the country, was to hire the best people possible. I never gave a hoot about their ethnicity, race, gender, or sexual preference. Didn't care about it on an application, didn't care about it when they became my employee, because that was immaterial and it was irrelevant. Now, let's just put aside even the morality and the legal considerations, because pay discrimination has been illegal in this country since the Equal Pay Act of 1963 and reinforced by the Civil Rights Act in 1964. But even putting that aside, it's simply really bad business to discriminate in these callous ways. It's so incredibly difficult to find good employees, and to find great ones, it's even tougher. My point here is that I'm no different than the other millions of business owners around the country. We all aim to find talented folks, hire the best people, and pay for performance. The cream rises to the top, as it were. And if these alarming disparities that some claim that exist, if they existed in actuality, let me ask you this question and think about this. You have to ask yourself, why would businesses not just to hire all women? Because we know how talented female workers are in America. They are certainly equal and just as capable as their male counterparts. If a business owner could get an employee to do the same job, but only have to pay 70 cents or 82 cents on the dollar, 53 cents on the dollar, what have you, why wouldn't you do that across the board? Hire your entire workforce in that manner. Ownership would save a colossal amount of money on wages. Your labor costs would collapse and your profits would rise. But that doesn't happen. Now, why? Because this alleged wage gap is grossly overstated and exaggerated for political benefit. And any type of, quote, Paycheck Fairness Act would almost certainly result in fixed pay scales by companies, and that's just awful. The result of which we see, the output and productivity crumbling, as the best employees, both men and women, the one that work the hardest, work the longest hours, and work the smartest, would suffer the most, because many businesses would be unable to have the option to pay bonuses and give spot raises and properly reward and incentivize their highest producers. This also we saw play out, I believe, in Denmark when this happened over there. So this is about the free market, and this is about liberty, and this is about what the market will bear. In all things, whether it's sports or business. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts today, Madam Chair, and I yield back.